And we're live with your friend Justin McDonald, Results Radio. And today we are going to talk about avoiding professional perfectism. Is perfectism a real word? It is now. Because you know what perfectism, perfection. In fact, anything I'm doing is far from perfect. Even my call to action. Look at that. I wrote it up there. Is it in perfect handwriting? No, it's not. Sometimes it's all about getting the message at the right time. You know? If somebody half-ass put together a Black Friday special, but they just had to get it in that small window, it's fine, right? It works. They could still kill it. But if they spend too much time trying to get the message just right, everything just perfect, and and then they miss the window of having the sale because they're trying to get things too perfect, what's going to happen? They got to wait a whole nother 364 days to try to pull off that same plan again because they're trying to make it all perfect. So, I've said it once, and I'll say it again. Good enough is good enough, right? And we've heard other entrepreneurs say that before too. My ex and I used to call this zone that you would get into when you would be trying to get perfect all the time. And what happens with perfectism is that it leads to procrastination. So we used to call it procrastination station, which is like kind of like analysis paralysis or decision fatigue, right? It's all the same thing. You're just kind of like stuck in this thought process of like holding back on your plans and what you want to do because you're just trying to, oh, the weather needs to be just right, oh, this needs to be just right, all these things need to be perfect. And that is one of the things in business that really hurts businesses. So like think about it like this, like what's like the biggest sin in marketing? And we know that is being boring. So like right next to being boring, in my opinion, would probably be trying to be perfect. Trying to be perfect, and that's just like one of those things, being an entrepreneur or running your own business, that it's hard to avoid that syndrome and like that perfectionism. And like, your business or whoever's business that you're representing or know of, like it's like their baby. And and not only that, but like if you're in the business of yourself, you're basically, promoting, yourself, and you don't want like, what I mean, you don't want like all those imperfections sometimes to like show up and have people like see you in that light or something. But you're just gonna have to like get over that kind of stuff, because a lot of times it's more about getting the right message at the right time instead of just getting it perfectly a lot, like, what I mean, like you want to have your message perfectly aligned with your prospect. But as far as like the spelling and the size font and all those kinds of things, um small little errors here and there, just roll with it. Like having the consistency and being persistent is going to outweigh, and having factual dialogue and things like that are going to be way more relevant than having like everything just perfect and coloring just right in between the lines. So really, you want to make things great. And one example I remember too, I think Ben Settle was referencing this one time too. and he was referencing a filmmaker. I'm trying to think of his name. The guy that did like Avatar or like Jurassic Park or Titanic, or I can't remember his name. I should know his name. But what he was saying is that he wasn't, like, when he was putting out all these good movies, like whoever did like the Terminator, and I'm sure you know, I can't think of like the name right now, and all these like great movies, like he was saying instead of being a perfectionist, he was like, I want to be a greatest. Like, you know what I mean? Like, all these great movies, and not just him, but other producers too. They made all these great movies, but they didn't like. I mean, like, if some of the details are perfect, I understand, but when they were like trying to tell the story, when they were trying to make the magic happen and telling the story, like they weren't like getting hung up on like trying to make things perfect. It was more like, let's make them great. Let's have like all these great things happen and make these great movies. And you know what I mean? You don't go back and like, oh, like you just like, wow, that was a great movie, or that was a great whatever. I mean, I don't know if like somebody would be that particular and like having everything to be perfect. I think it's like perfect when it's not perfect. So yeah, good enough is good enough. And you don't want to get like, you don't want to have those minute details stand in the way of getting things done. So like, you know, you just want to keep things, you want to just get things going and keep things moving. I mean, I've had this problem myself. Like I didn't start doing certain things in my business um, for a long time because of that. Like, I was like, oh, the landing page needs to be just perfect. My sales funnel just needs to be just perfect. I need to have like the perfect brand name and logo and image, and I need to have the perfect client and customer instead of sometimes just taking ones that you don't want at the beginning. Like, all these things, like, you know, like, um and then maybe like, you know, somebody too that is in the food business or retail business or like a brick and mortar business, and they're just spending and wasting so much time on these minute details, and like, oh, we're not getting enough traffic and we're not getting enough business and all these things that they're complaining about, but then they're just like trying to make all these things inside the store perfect that nobody really cares about in the first place. um, so, you know, you don't necessarily, like, I know when it comes to writing too, like, you know, a lot of us hold back on writing, like writing about things in our handwriting, writing about things, just typing it, journaling, because, or writing a book or whatever, because you're just like, I gotta get it just right. I gotta get it perfect. And, you know, we'll start drawing blanks. You'll write down a sentence or two and then just give up. Like, all those things, and a lot of it is tied to like this feeling that you just gotta have it all together and you just gotta get it all right or something. And it's stupid, because like, I was I was told some sage advice one time, not like personally to me, but I heard it one time, and it was just like, you know, don't try to get it right, just write. I was like, exactly. Um, you know, and like, going the right way might be going the left way. You know what I mean? Like, everybody might be going, you know, the right, like, actually, if you think left or right, like, everyone's going right, right? And then there's another path going left, and it's going like a zigzag. It's going just like a different way, but it's still moving forward. Sometimes the better path is that one on the left. That's the right one. And, you know, we get caught up with just trying to go with the flow and keeping up with the Kardashians and stuff. Like, you know, maybe like the way that you want to go that's different than everybody else is the way that you should be going. And it's hard sometimes because, You're going to probably, at first, like, you're not going to be, like, open and accepting to, like, criticism and people saying that you should do it their way or a different way. I heard a great analogy today, too, kind of segueing into that before I wrap this up. It had to do with, like, the difference between a bonfire and a wood stove. And a lot of us, when we start off in our businesses in different directions in our life, there's like, we're like a bonfire, and a bonfire is just like, ashes and embers go all over the place, and it's kind of contained. But like, if you're trying to heat your house, you're not going to want to heat your house with a bonfire, nor do you want to heat your house with a fireplace. You probably want to use a stove. And the thing about the stove is that it might not even be as big of a fire either, but the wood stove has parameters. It has functionality. It has a certain process to it. And that's why, like, I love that analogy, because, like, as you go further in, like, your entrepreneur journey, you want to be more like the wood stove, because the wood stove has efficiency. You're like, oh, I can also heat things up on it. I can heat the house. There's just all these different things that you could do with a wood stove. With a bonfire, it's just kind of a wild fire. It's going all different ways. It's smoky. It could be dangerous. And that's okay. You got to be okay with just being a bonfire. Oh, it's cool. Like, what I mean? You could soak in that fire, that energy, and then it's beautiful. But, what you really want to be doing is trying to be more like the wood stove, where you're just like, what I mean? You kind of have these parameters and this mission. What I mean? Like, what the wood stove has limited functionality, but the functions that it's doing are very, beneficial to a human being. So, there's not a lot of benefits of having a bonfire. I mean, there are a little bit, if that's all you got, but just think of it like that sometimes too. Like, when you're first starting out, like, you're gonna be like a bonfire and be all wild and full of energy. And then as you get older, as you move forward and progress, you're going to start thinking, like, maybe I want to be more like the stove. I still want the fire, but I want it to have, purpose and a mission, and being able to contain it and control it in such a way that's, beneficial. So I think that's all I have for you today. So definitely you want to do that. Avoid professional perfectism. And you've probably seen up here, if you go to results-required.com, I'll give you a free breakthrough results blueprint for signing up to my email list. And don't worry, if you give me your email, or it's not going to be like, I'm not going to send you any spam or try to sell you anything. I just kind of tell stories through email, like business stories. And I try to make them fun to read on a daily basis. And then, yeah, there's like the tag right there too, @results-required. The hashtag handle is pretty much good wherever social media platforms that I'm on. So thank you very much for listening, and have a great day. Peace.